Nah, get this TikTok together. All right, all right. It's your brother Isaiah again with another video for all my conscious brothers and all of my conscious sisters in the conscious community, keeping the struggle because we know that it's through this struggle that we grow. Also, I like to say that it is, in fact, a slow process for progress, and that the race is not. It's not to those who are swift, it's to those that remain dutiful. You gotta stay in it for the long haul. Y'all already know that I don't offer legal advice. I'm not some type of legal counsel or any of those fictitious titles. I'm your brother. I just share with you education and information about my walks and travels throughout my journey called life. I like to extend these honors to you because when you're honoring man and you're honoring woman, you're honoring yourself. And let me give adoration to Allah, who is the hidden temple of my life, and extend that same love, courtesy, and acknowledgement to all of his messengers and all of his prophets. I'd like to say peace to all of you, beloved brothers and sisters, and grand rising to all of God's chosen people. Today, I want to talk a little bit about billing errors. Okay. I want to go a little bit into understanding what a bill is when you receive one and how to be able to look at the bill and determine whether or not error has occurred and how to properly address that specific institution in reference to any errors pertaining to an extension of credit that you were approved for, and maybe it's being misrepresented in the nature of the request of payment. See, the nature of everything in the system that we live in operates on credit. We don't have money. Y'all got to remember that there is no money, lawful money in circulation amongst the populace of the people, meaning that there's lawful money with the treasury backing the money, but amongst us, the populace, amongst the people, the Americans, there is no lawful money in circulation amongst us. Only thing that's lawful amongst us that they circulate in is currency. They made legal tender as lawful payment so that they can use instruments, drafts, notes, money orders, and all these fictitious items in place of real money. But what they never really taught us is what these items really represent. When you hold a lease, when you hold a license, when you hold a mortgage, when you hold an application, they didn't really explain to us what that item really represents and what you're supposed to do with it, right? So a lot of things that are happening is based off the common individual lacking understanding of credit terms. See, they knew that if they didn't teach you about credit, that you wouldn't understand how credit worked. So when somebody's making you overpay credit or somebody's not reducing your debt and you were approved for a reduction or a scheduled balance to be applied to your debt, and they don't apply that balance on those due dates, like the debt said they supposed to do, then that's an adverse action, because every debt is purchased with its own payoff. You shouldn't have to pay it off out your pocket. When you bought the debt, it had due dates already scheduled in it. You should have been able to receive payment on every date when you delivered that item to them. Instead, they misrepresented the nature of the transfer and assumed you were giving up your ownership so that they can enforce your rights against you. But that's a violation of law when they do that. So we're gonna go into the code. Y'all know how Brother Isaiah, I like to beat him up. I like to beat him every which way, but what they say, I'm gonna rip you every which way but loose, boy. You ain't gonna get loose from this tight grip that Brother Isaiah got up on you. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna get away from this grip. I got a good grip on you, brother, and I'm about to expose you like the devil you is, because these people are some cold, deceptive liars, right? Now check this out. Now you want to go to 15 USC, right? So you can read it along with me. You go to 15 USC. Specifically, you want to go to subsection 1666. So it's 15 USC subsection 1666. All right, this is what we're going to read from, right? We're going to go into this. I'm going to give you a minute to catch up, catch up. All right, so this says a written notice by an obligor to a creditor. Time for the content of the notice, procedures upon receipt of the notice by the creditor. It says if a creditor within 6 days after having transmitted to an obligor a statement of the obligor's account in connection with an extension of credit of consumer credit, receives at the address disclosed in section 1637B 10 of this title a written notice other than a notice on a payment stub or other payment medium supplied by the creditor. So it's talking about a notice that a consumer gives to the creditor in order to notify the creditor of a billing error. But the notice that the consumer gives to the creditor is a notice other than one written on a payment stub or one written on the medium of exchange itself, which is the item that they deliver to you. All right, that's what it's talking about. When you do this dispute, it can't be on the medium or on a coupon. It has to be on a separate document, okay? So it's very important that you understand that part, right? Now it says, if the creditor so stipulates with the disclosures required under 1637A7 of this title from an obligor, which the obligor sets forth, otherwise enables the creditor to identify the name and account number, if any, of an obligor. So one of the first things that it requires when you dispute your account, you got to identify the name and the account number, if any, of the obligor. Then it says it must indicate the obligor's belief that the statement contains an error and the amount of such billing error. So you got to specify, what you believe the error is. That's why I tell you, you got to study. You got to have knowledge of what you're saying. You can't just be saying, oh, it's a billing error. I'm entitled to a credit, and you can't really explain why you're entitled to something. You see what I'm saying? So part of this is you having the right understanding to enforce your rights, to be able to express that right that one carries. If you don't know the right, then it don't exist. You see what I'm saying? You going off some YouTube. You think these people, they ain't hip to the YouTube, the Facebook, and all these people running around? Because it's a lot of people that think they teaching right, don't even know they teaching wrong, because they understand it. It's what they think is right. But it take a lot of time to really figure this out. Every day, some things that I thought I knew that were right, when I come back, as time go on, I come to realize that I was right in a way, but not all the way right. Now that I see it for what it is, I get it now. Sometimes it take a little while for it to, you be thinking you all the way right at 100. I know I'm right. And then a year later, you like, man, you got a whole different mindset now. You like, damn. So the whole time. So that's why I say you got to really study, because your understanding today might not be your understanding tomorrow. just based off, you know, the level of growth. When you start growing, things start changing, concepts start becoming different concepts based off your level of understanding, right? Now let's keep going. Now it says, so after he set forth the amount, right? So you got to identify the amount and you got to say why you believe that that specific amount is in error, right? Then it said you got to set forth the reasons for the obligor's belief to the extent applicable that the statement contains a billing error. Now it says that the creditor shall, unless the obligor has, after giving such written notice and before expiration of the time limit herein specified, agree that the statement was correct, right? So another thing, let's go back up to the very beginning. This is the most important part. If you don't catch this, it's going to throw everything off, all right? So you can do everything and write your notice, but if you didn't do this, it's wrong. When you first read it, it says, if the creditor within 6 days after transmitting to an obligor a statement. So what that means is within 7 days of you receiving that statement, you got to express your billing error within those first 7 days. If that creditor does not receive that bill back on his desk within that 7-day period, grace period, because they give you a 7-day grace period to dispute it before the creditor basically acts on the statement. So when they deliver the statement to you, it's 21 days out in advance. You got 21 days to the payment date. That's usually how it's supposed to go. 7 of those days is a grace period. The first 7 days is called a grace period, whether you can accept or deny the statement. Okay. If after 7 days you haven't expressed anything or anything, he haven't received nothing back on his desk saying that you disputed or anything, it's considered to be accepted. Okay. So you make sure that when you dispute a bill, you got to do it within 7 days. You cannot wait a week later, 2 weeks later and say, oh, I'm going to dispute this. No, you got to dispute that thing the day you get it. You got to and put it back in the mail. You got to. If you don't do that, you're not in compliance with the law. You got to be in compliance with time frames. Okay? Time frames. And another reason why some of y'all ain't getting credits is because y'all endorsements is late. You see what I'm saying? These people got time frames, grace periods that you have to do certain things in order to process instruments within a certain time frame. Because you got to remember, these people, you got to do something, they got to do something, then they got to send it here. So they on time frames. You can't just do anything when you feel like it. You got to do things in accordance to the agreement. Okay. Now it says, let me go back down where I was at. All right. All right. So it says no later than 30 days after the receipt of the notice, send an acknowledgement thereof to the obligor unless the action required in paragraph B is taken within such 30-day period. So once you send them this notice, they supposed to respond to you within 30 days. Okay. Not 2 months later, a month and a half later, they're supposed to respond to you within 30 days. Okay. Then it says no later than 2 complete billing cycles of the creditor in no event later than 90 days after the receipt of the notice and prior to taking action to collecting the amount or any part thereof indicated by the obligor under paragraph 2, either make appropriate corrections in the account of the obligor. So either he got to make corrections. All right. So you want him to make corrections. Why? Because when you enter into a credit agreement and you receive a principal loan for credit, the principal loan is extending your rights to credit. If you hold a lease is extending your rights to credit. If you hold a mortgage is extending your rights to credit. If you hold a phone account is extending your rights to credit. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that any account you hold grants you the rights to receive credit on that account. So if you're in a contract with a lender and you have a due obligation to pay him and he's not providing credit as the amount that you owe him. Instead, he's saying you're supposed to pay and add more instruments into the account to pay it off. You already gave him the full instrument that he's entitled to. The full amount of items that he's entitled to receive is the principal loan itself. That's the total amount physically. That's the physical amount that he has that he's only entitled to receive. Now he's entitled to the interest extending from that note, but he's not collecting the interest extending from the note. He's collecting items to add to the note in order to pay it off. So that means that every time you pay a bill, you're adding another item into the account, and then that makes the item larger. So every payment you make, you're adding new items into that account, and each item you add in increases the principal loan, makes the item bigger because you're adding more items to it. So it's getting bigger and bigger. Even though you're trying to pay it off, you're adding items to pay it off instead of using the interest to reduce it and pay it off like you're supposed to. So they're deceiving you, okay? That's a billing error. Anytime they make you pay in cash or pay and make a deposit to the account to pay, that's an error. That's an increase or an overpayment because you're adding more items into the account. You already gave them the full item they was entitled to. That's the full amount they entitled to was the debt. So anything else you add into that account, that's an overpayment because you're overpaying the amount in items that they supposed to have. They're only supposed to have one item up to the full amount, and they already got it. So why are you adding new items to pay? It don't make sense, y'all. And because we so blind, and because we so sleep, we don't realize that when we pay a bill, when we pay a phone bill, car bill, we're issuing negotiable instruments into that account in order to pay it off. All right. You're steady adding more principal instruments into the account. Anytime you're dealing with principal, you're dealing with items. Principal operates as items. So the original principal amount you owe was the total item you gave. Any other items you get are overpayments. You're adding too much items to the account. You're only supposed to have, listen, man, he's only entitled to one payment, right? One payment, debit and credit. He's not entitled to all these extra payments that he's collecting on. Okay. You gotta understand that anytime somebody's billing you for credit instead of applying the credits that you were approved for, that's an error. All right. You got a right to receive those amounts. So when the creditor is billing you, right? Let me give you an example. Say a creditor billing you on an installment contract where you, as the purchaser, purchased the contract from the lender. Now, when you purchased the contract, that you were promising the lender that you would repay that instrument back to him, all right? Because the instrument was an extension of credit. So you gave him the instrument back, right? And you signed it and gave your promise to pay. He took the instrument from you, right? Now, let me explain to you how it goes. So this is the way it goes. Contract is a reciprocal promises between parties. So when you understand how contracts work, it'll make a lot more sense how the actual obligation goes. Let me explain to you. So a contract is a present sale of goods, okay? Matter of fact, let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up on the UCC so I can explain it a little bit better based off what the code say. Let me pull it up. UCC contract for sale. All right, and if your guru can't do this, if he can't pull this stuff up and break it down like this and explain to you what this stuff means, then he ain't officially certified. You hear me? All right, you gotta be certified, brother Isaiah. I'm certified. You hear me? Certified with this thing. I don't get anybody. I'm certified. Boy, I tear them up with this information, man. That's how cold I am with it. And I ain't saying it to brag. I'm saying it because it's real, man. Ain't a lot of people ain't put the work in. Like I said, it ain't to the swift. It's to those who can endure the longest. I endured this information so that I can understand it, so I can free myself and make sure that my children know the truth. So when they grow up, they ain't got to wrestle with their credit or none of that shit because I learned it so that they don't have to suffer, meaning that my children shouldn't have to work because I work. Shit, it's supposed to get better with time. What you mean? Why? If I work and I put the work in, then I should be setting it up for them to where they can reap the benefits of everything I've done. Why should they have to start from zero? Why should you raising your kid? Boy, you better get older now so you can get you a job. I can't wait till you get you a job. You sound foolish. You're supposed to make sure he don't have to go through that. You see? I mean, I know you want them to be responsible, but at the same time, we're supposed to make sure that our children do better than us. If we had to work, they should be bosses. That's just how it go, man. That's how it's supposed to be. We supposed to be setting them up. You know what I'm saying? Now check this out. Now, this is definition of contract, agreement, contract for sale, present sale, conforming contract, termination of a contract. Now, if you want to understand what a contract is, right, let me tell you where I'm at. I'm at UCC 2, 106, subsection 2, 106, definitions, contracts. All right. Go and pull it up so you can read it with Brother Isaiah. So I can show you how you read this thing and how you break this thing down, because everybody don't understand legalese. You hear me? Now check this out. Now it says in this article, unless the context otherwise requires, contract and agreement are limited to those relating to present and future goods. So a contract and an agreement are limited, right? Because an agreement is an agreement to sell, and a contract is a binding agreement for goods that have been sold, right? Now check this out. So a contract and agreement is relating to present and future goods. So one is a present and one deals with the future. So either it's a contract or it's just an agreement. So one is present and one is future. You got to understand that, right? Contract and agreement. Now it says a contract for sale. Now this is a contract for sale. Anytime they're selling a contract, it includes both a present sale of goods and then a contract to sell goods at a future time, right? So let me explain to you what that is. So say, for instance, me and you, we enter into a lease agreement and I'm the landlord, right? And I give you the lease, right? And you sign it. That's a present contract because I'm offering you the lease. And when you sign that's an acceptance of my offer, which initially creates the contract between us. Now, 30 days later, it's a contract to it's a present sale of goods, and then it's a contract to sell goods at a future time. So that means that once we enter into the contract and you offer me the lease and I sign and accept it, all right, that's my acceptance of your offer, which makes us enter into a binding contract. Now, once I give you that back, you have to do what you said you was going to do on the lease. And according to the lease, it said that you will provide rents every month by certain dates. So before a certain date, 21 days in advance, I should receive some kind of item from you, a bill, an invoice, or something pertaining to a billed amount of rents that you agreed in the beginning of our contract to deliver to me. Now, I agree to accept those goods and create a new contract and then deliver them same goods you just delivered to me back to you for sale again. So that's what it is. It's a present sale, then it's a contract because you got to accept their offer to enter into an agreement with them at a later date. So every bill is an offer to accept and pay, which consummates the contract. But it came from the original contract, which was you accepting his offer to deliver those goods to you. He offered you goods and you accepted it and gave it back. And now he's billing you the amounts for you to accept to enter into a contract with him. Okay. That's what a contract is. Okay. So now a lot of people don't know because they don't read. So they don't understand why the seller is billing you, right? He's giving you a right to contract with him, right? Now check this out. It says a sale consists in passing of the title from the seller to the buyer for a price. So whenever they transfer the title, right, it's considered a sale. All right. Now, I don't make this up. I don't say that when they delivered that document to you, it was sold to you. All right. I'm basing it based off what the law says. It says that a present sale, right? It says that a sale consists of passing the title from the seller to the buyer. So if I go and I apply for a lease, the title is with the buyer. I mean, with the landlord. He's the actual owner of that actual lease agreement. He's the one who created the document and ultimately he owns it. All right. But a present sale is when he gives it to me. Once he delivers it to me after I apply for it, is considered to be sold to me now. All right. A present sale is a transfer of the title, right? So, and then it says a present sale means a sale which is accomplished by the making of a contract. So I'm gonna give you to this, right? So a contract is a present sale, and then a contract to sell goods at a future time. So when you enter into a contract, you're going to enter into a present sale. A present sale means a sale which is accomplished by the making of a contract. So if you put in for goods and then he delivers those goods to you and you sign it, that's a present sale. You applied, he offered, and you accepted. That created the contract. Now the goods got to be delivered to you. See what I'm saying? That's how contracts work. All right. So there's a present agreement where we agree, you agree to provide these amounts to me. I accept these amounts and agree to pay these amounts later on to you. And I give you back the instrument and you manufacture these goods up. And every month you deliver me something representing the rights that I have under the contract. And I must accept those goods to create a new contract with you in order to deliver those goods to you for payment. So if I don't do that, then I have not complied to the contract. Okay. I want you to understand that, right? Now, goods or conducts, including any part of performance or conform to the contract when they are in accordance with the obligations under the contract. So let me explain to you what that means. So goods are conforming goods. Let's look up this legal definition of the word conforming, because brother Isaiah, I'm just so certain. I'm so certain. You hear me? Because I can't do nothing without being certain. Anything I do, I got to know what I'm talking about. Because I can't get on here and talk to you don't know what I'm talking about, because I sound foolish. I'm gonna get people to follow a fool. You can't follow no fool, you know what I'm saying? So I gotta show you that I ain't no fool, you hear me? I gotta show you that I'm full of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, so you know who you're talking to, man. A lot of y'all don't even know who I am. You're just coming in and just figuring out. You've been bamboozled and hoodwinked by so many others. You don't even know who Brother Isaiah is. You just not figuring out who's this brother. You know what I'm saying? Check it out. Now it says an act of following rules. So conforming, when goods are conforming to the contract, right? The word conform means, in a legal context, conforming refers to the act of following rules, standards, or agreements. It means ensuring that actions, products, or behaviors align with what is expected or required by law. For example, in legal documents, conformity ensures that the product meets safety standards or that the parties adhere to contractual obligations. This concept is essential for maintaining accountability and ensuring compliance with legal requirements. Now let's go back, because I'm about to burn him up. Right now, check it out. So goods are conduct, including any part of performance, are conforming or conform to the contract when they are in accordance with the obligations under the contract. Stop right there. So, in order for goods that you purchased under a present sale, when you sign and accept the contract and he said he's going to deliver goods to you, these goods are conforming when they are in compliance with the contract or they are in accordance with the obligations under the contract. Stop right there. When you enter into a contract, is it a credit agreement? Are we entering into credit agreements? Are we utilizing credit in order to pay debts? Okay. So first and foremost, when you read your contract, most of the contracts say that this is a consumer credit contract. So to be in conformity with the contract is that the goods being delivered to you have to be credits. They should not be delivering you debits saying this is what's due when it's a credit agreement. If it's a credit agreement, then they should be delivering credits to you, reduced balances that the consumer is receiving that's reducing his debt as part of his loan. If they're making you pay the debt and increase the balance of the debt to pay it off, that's an adverse action. You making me pay you in order to reduce my loan rather than accept that the fact that when I accepted the loan, every amount that's due on my loan were credits. But instead of you billing me credits, you're billing me debits and making me pay in debits rather than billing me credits that the contract calls for. This is a credit agreement. I have a credit profile. This is a credit account. You don't believe me? I can get Experian, TransUnion, Equifax to back this up that this is a credit profile that you have on file. But you're asking for debits for payment instead of credits to reduce my loan. Now, I ain't stupid. I understand that the original debit was the original debt I gave you. So you already been given the debit principal. So you're supposed to be implying what the principal calls for. Principal calls for a reduced balance of credit. All debts create credit. Credit is the reduced balance of your loan. So when you get a due balance from a lender, it should be a credit balance, not a debit, not a positive. You already gave them the positive amount, the full amount at the beginning of the contract. Every positive number is what you delivered to him. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying that you did not deliver every due balance to him at the beginning of the contract. All those positive numbers were not given to him at the beginning. Tell me I'm lying. He didn't receive every principal amount at the beginning of that contract. So why is he demanding that you pay in principal again? It don't make sense. Don't you got a right to credit? So shouldn't you be demanding that every bill be converted into credit as a part of your loan to reduce it? Why should you have to pay for something that's already been purchased? I already purchased these due balances. I purchased that when I purchased my lease, though the lease came with the due rents. So why are you trying to make me pay you rents instead of acknowledge that I already have a right to rents under the lease and apply them for me? See, that's what they don't want you to know. They don't want you to understand what's really going on, right? So they can take advantage, right? Because most people don't understand what's going on. But let me get back to where I was at. All right, so now we understand. I'm back at the billing error. I'm back on I. All right, so the creditor he has to make appropriate corrections in the account of the obligor, including crediting any finance charge, right, on amounts erroneously billed and transmitted to the obligor a notification of such correction. So it's telling you right here, anytime they bill you for financing, meaning financing is approved credit. When you apply for a loan, you get approved for credit. Credit is financing. Credit is the amounts that finance your debt. So if they billing you for credit that you was approved for and they billing you for a credit agreement, that's erroneous. How you gonna bill me for credit? You know what I'm saying? They're not supposed to bill you for credit. Credit is the rights to receive and reduce a loan or defer the payment of a loan. So every month when that payment is due, you should be receiving a reduced balance to defer it, to offset it. You see what I'm saying? But they're not doing it. They're making you pay and add to it. And that's a violation of law, right? Now, and transmit to the obligor a notification of such corrections and the creditor explanation of any changes in the amount by the obligor under paragraph 2. And if any such changes is made, the obligor is evident the obligor's indebtedness. So you should always, when you're disputing and doing stuff like that, you should always demand that they give you a full accounting, that you want to see a full accounting of the full ledger, debits, credits, and any other obligations pertaining to your account. You got to give them information sufficient to identify the debtor. Like you got to so your debtor is your legal identity, but your legal identity is identifying a man. So whenever a man validates his identity, he gives all his legal information as written out, and then he certifies that that legal information pertaining to that entity is that's identifying him as a man. So I know in your system it's a legal person, but I got to certify that legal identity as me. So you're going to know that that's actually a man that you're dealing with, because I know y'all deal with many different persons, but I want to make sure that you understand that that person is referring to a natural person. And that's basically what we have to do. That's part of identifying yourself. It's not running from your legal identity. It's actually verifying your legal identity as the identity of a man, because they won't identify you as a man. They'll just treat you as a legal person if you don't verify or validate your identity to them. You see what I'm saying? That's the same thing with the courts. They treating you like some type of legal person or some legal agent, but you got to let them know who you truly are so that they can deal with you properly, right? Now, it says, send a written explanation and clarification to the obligor after having conducted an investigation setting forth To the extent the reasons why the creditor believes the account of the obligor was correctly shown in the statement, and upon request of the obligor, provide copies of documentary evidence to the obligor's indebtedness. So either they got to prove that you are indebted to them, provide proof why they believe that you are indebted to them, and things like that. Now, in the case of a billing error where the obligor alleges that the creditor billing statement reflects goods not delivered to the obligor or his designee in accordance with the agreement made at the time of the transaction, the creditor may not construe such amount to be correctly shown unless he determines that such goods were actually delivered, mailed, or otherwise sent to the obligor, and provides the obligor with a statement of such determination, right? So a lot of people say these people not paying or paying the amounts to you that you are entitled to on your contract. They commit fraud. They collecting my credits rather than providing my credits. Well, every month they do provide you a credit. They're just providing it to you as a debit. All right. They're the amount is erroneous. It's a billing error. It's an erroneous amount. All right, because the agreement calls for credit, because all agreements in the United States are credit agreements. All your agreements call for credit. Any creditor that's collecting credits through debits is violating your rights. He's increasing your loan balance, because instead of him allowing you to receive a direct credit to reduce your loan, by him applying that credit as part of what he promised to pay if you in fact agree, and he should be applying those credits because he's in possession of your signed agreement that you agreed to pay. But instead of him applying those credits, he's billing you the debit and saying that it's your obligation to pay that credit directly. And then he's trying to make you pay and do a direct payment by adding funds to the account to reduce the balance, when he actually is supposed to reduce the balance because he's in possession of the payment instrument, which already states that these balances are supposed to be applied and what dates and stuff like that, but he's not doing it. Instead of him applying the balances and sending you statement of the balance being applied, he's trying to make you pay. So your thing is to discharge that debt. The way you discharge a debt is by converting it from debit to credit. Anytime they're making you pay your account in in debits, you got to convert that account over to a credit account. You got to make sure you dispute it, pay it, you demand that it be credited. You got to demand credit. You got to demand credit. Credit is the rights to reduce your obligation. As long as they are operating with you above the zero on a credit profile, you got to know you're in error, because credits don't work above the zero. When you're dealing with credits, have you ever seen a credit above the zero? Most people say, oh, this is a credit. No, debits work above the zero. What you've been seeing your whole life is debits. You've been seeing debits your whole life, but most people call debits credits, okay? But a debit is not a credit. A credit is a negative number, okay? A credit works below the zero, all right? It's a matching principle to a debit, right? So if you receive a due balance above the zero as an extension of credit to you, the only way you can pay off that positive number is with its matching negative number. In accounting, negative and positive numbers are equivalent to each other. So -3 is equivalent to +3. When you put them together, they zero out. All right. It's the exact same thing when you receive a debt. When you receive a debt above the zero, they taught us this stuff in grade school. I can't make it up. They taught this stuff, the number line, the chart. They taught this shit to us in grade school. Real talk. Real talk. You can't tell me they didn't teach you this in school. I know you know what I'm talking about. Okay. You know negative and positive numbers. So why are you, now that you are an adult and you grown, why are you acting like you don't understand that shit? You know what I'm saying? Why are you acting like you don't know the difference between positive and negative numbers? Why you don't understand that positive numbers are debits and negative numbers are credits? How come you don't understand that? Oh, because they trick you. Every time you do an overdraft on your bank account, they make you pay that overdraft. So in your mind, when you see a negative number, you say, oh, I owe that. Yeah, I owe, yeah, my account in the negative, I got to pay. Well, what if I told you that when your account overdrafts, it's actually an extension of credit? You didn't, if you didn't have those funds and you seeing a negative balance in your account, that's an extension of credit, man. I think you reading your account wrong, right? So when you overdraft and your account goes negative, in your mind, you say, oh, I owe the bank. You do. But what do you owe the bank? That's what I'm going to ask you. Because if you didn't have funds to cover the transaction and the bank covered that transaction for you and provided funds, and then your account is not showing a negative balance, that's a credit. That means that the bank has provided credit to you. The reason why it's negative because credit works in the negative. So when you see an overdraft negative number, that's an extension of credit. So what is that saying? Is they telling you to pay it off with cash? No, it's already extended to your account. You already been approved for the credit. It's already on file. It's a balance showing that an extension of credit has been applied to your account. But why is it showing up as just a negative balance sitting there? Because only you can apply the credit once it's been given to you. Once I extend credit to you, only you can pay it. Only you can make sure that it get applied to the account. So they extend it and put it on file, and it just sits there on file as an extension of credit, as your obligation to make sure that it's applied. The way you pay an extension of credit is not with cash. You pay an extension of credit by acknowledging your obligation and promising to pay and apply the balance to the account as agreed, because the bank has already provided it. Now you got to promise to and give a promise to pay it and apply it. Once you give a promise to pay and apply it, they apply it because you got the rights to deposit instruments, promissory notes. Most people just don't do it because I guess they don't believe that they have the power to do these things, but you can do these things. I've offset many negative numbers with promissory notes. You hear me? That I've created myself, intended to the bank. So you just got to be competent, man. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. You just got to know what you can and what you can't do, right? All right. Now it says after complying with the provisions of this subsection with respects to an alleged billing error, the creditor has no further responsibility under this section if the obligor continues to make substantially the same alleged allegations with respect to such error. So a billing error consists of any of the following: a reflection on a statement of an extension of credit, which was not made to the obligor, if made, was not in the amount reflected on such statement. So the key thing I want you to pay attention to, it says a reflection on a statement of an extension of credit. All right. And I just told you that credit works. Credit, it reduces principal. Anytime you're dealing with credit, credit is an amount that will reduce a principal amount. So if you're receiving a monthly statement, that means that you have been approved for credit. Only way you receive statements is if you've been approved for credit. Invoices, you got to be approved for credit. Anytime you're being billed, that means you're being financed by a lender. He's financing your credit, right? So if you receive a statement from him of an extension of credit that he's financing for you, which is not made to you, if the credit is not applied to your account, if you get a statement of a due amount that's not applied to your account, rather it's an amount being requested for your account, that's an error. That's an error because that's a reflection on that statement that shows that the amount of credit is not paid to the consumer. Instead, it's a request from the consumer to pay credit. That anytime you get a bill and they're requesting for you to pay, that's an error. According to the contract, you're supposed to be receiving a credit from the asset. You're supposed to be receiving a due balance. Every due balance is what the asset said was due to you. Every month it told you the dates that they will be due to you. So when those due balances come, they should be credits to you. You have a right to consume that. As a consumer, you consume those balances. Those balances are credited to you. If you're not consuming the balances, if you're not using the balances of that debt, if they're making you pay the balances of that debt, that's an error. That's an error. That's an error, because when a consumer purchases, he don't purchase to resell. A consumer purchases consume. So every due balances that came with your lease, you have the rights to consume them rents. You have the rights to receive those rents. You have the rights to use those rents as a consumer. You better understand what consume means. Okay? When somebody's not allowing you to consume your loan, they're making you pay the loan rather than consume it after you've already gave value for the loan. That's an error. A reflection on a statement of goods or services not accepted by the obligor, his designee, or not delivered to the obligor, his designee, in accordance with the agreement made at the time of the transaction. So now you understand what I'm talking about when it says, so when they deliver those goods to you, right, in the mail, you got to accept those goods, man. You got to accept those goods. You got to identify those goods as goods pertaining to your contract. If it's rents and they invoice you, you got to accept that invoice. You got to identify that those rents are rents pertaining to your lease and that you have a right to receive that amount as a credit. You should not be paying rents from your lease. You should be identifying rents as part of your lease, and you should be demanding that the rents be applied to the lease rather than being charged for the rents after you have accepted the lease. You got to change the way you think, y'all. Y'all got to change the way y'all think. We got to change our thinking. We can do this. We can make a change in this world, but we got to have the knowledge to do it, man. You got to have the knowledge, man. Y'all make sure y'all hit them likes. I only see 170. Come on now. Show some love. All right, so a computational error or similar error of an accounting nature of a creditor on a statement. What's a computational error? What's a computational error? When they make an error, so you mean to tell me I can enter into a credit agreement and you telling me that the creditor can make an error, computational error, instead of him providing me with statements of credits, he provide me with statements of debits. Most consumers are unaware that when they sign a credit agreement that the creditor is supposed to provide credit statements, not debit statements. So most consumers, when they receive a statement of credit, they don't understand that it's an error because it's not reflecting a balance being consumed by him. It's not showing that the amount is paid to the consumer. If they were paying those amounts that are due on that debt to you, then every month your debt will go down because they're paying the due balances of the debt back to you, which reduces the amount of the debt that was extended to you. If they extended you a loan agreement, which is considered as an extension of credit, but it came with its own due balances, and those due balances is part of that extension of credit, and then you gave all that to the lender, then 30 days later, you already got available credits that was part of your agreement that were not applied when you signed. So when you gave him that, he got to apply those debts later, right? Why is he not applying them if they were already purchased in the beginning when I signed? I signed the instrument and the due balances was part of that instrument, but they weren't able to be applied at the time I signed unless I did an endorsement. But I didn't do an endorsement. I gave a blank endorsement and a promise to pay, right? What am I promising to pay? I'm not promising to pay you out my pocket. I'm promising to apply those due balances at a later date that came with my agreement. But instead of you making those due balances negative balances so I can sign them over to you, you're sending them to me as obligations that I have to pay you directly. That's where the fraud is coming in. Don't you understand that your debt is already secured? When I say your debt is already secured, why should you have to pay rents out your pocket when you purchased the lease and it told you the installment dates for your rents? It already told you that your lease got rents associated with it and that this lease will install rents. And it told you the dates that the lease will install these rents. And then you signed it back over to the landlord and he installed one rent for you. Not one. After he promised that to you, after he offered that to you, you don't see nothing wrong. So y'all don't see nothing wrong with that? You don't see nothing wrong with somebody offering you something that says that you are entitled to rent. And then 30 days later, instead of you receiving the entitlement of rents, he start collecting the rents directly. You don't see nothing wrong with that? Oh, so you just so damn bamboozled and hypnotized, you can't see that you're being tricked. I'm gonna tell you something else. I'm gonna give you something else. This right here. You gotta use this, man. You gotta use this. You got it. You hear me? See, the thing is, you ain't eating right. You gotta eat stuff like this. You gotta eat right. So you can think right. Check this out. You know you got your mind on right when you can see your remedy, right? Check this out. Let me give you an analogy. I want a new car. I got good credit. I just don't have the knowledge on how to take action to get the car on credit without paying out my pocket. Right? What if I told you that it's really simple for you to use your credit? What if I told you that once you get approved by a dealer for an extension of credit, let me give you an analogy. I'm gonna give you an analogy. I'm gonna get off after this, y'all. Y'all go back and check this out because I got some things I gotta do. I just gotta get on here and show my face, man. I gotta get more active in interacting with y'all. I'm gonna start sharing a lot of more information and building with y'all because man, it's a beautiful thing. I love teaching. I love doing this. It's fun to me to educate my people so that they can know the truth. And so now when y'all start going at these creditors, like I got some sisters that say that the people be asking them, how do you even know this? She's like, I got a great teacher. Because they like, damn, they're messing them up because they ain't used to nobody coming like this. You hear me? They ain't used to people a certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? When you start coming the right way, they be blown away. They be like, did you learn this? You know what I'm saying? But check it out. So when you go to a dealership, right? This is a bonus. It's a bonus. Okay. If you want me to, help you, put this together, you can always get a consultation with me, man, a one-on-one. And I can run you through the steps, help you put your documents together, whatever you need. You hear me? So just throw that out there for you. Okay. So when you go to the dealership, all right, first thing you must understand is that you have a right to purchase goods on credit. All right. Or you can enter into a cash type agreement. All right. So to purchase goods on credit, when you go and you apply using your finance, right, that means that you want credit. All right. So when you get approved, usually they'll come to you and they'll tell you, this bank approved you or this institution approved you for a loan, right? At that time, you should ask them for the name of a person in that bank. You need to know the address of that bank, right? You get that information so you can have the bank information because this is your finance. So when you draw up your draft payment, that bank that approved you is going to be the bank that you draw your payment on. So it's just like drawing a draft. So I'm going to draw a draft. All right. This is going to be a payment order. I'm going to pay. I'm the drawer. I'm the consumer. I'm the purchaser. I'm the buyer. I'm buying credit from the dealer. So in order to pay what I'm buying, I'm drawing an order for the credit that I bought. Okay. So since I bought this installment, then that gives me a right to draw an order to pay the credits that I just bought in this installment. So at the time of signing the installment, I also write up an order by me as the drawer. The buyer is the drawer of the order for payment. Okay, so as the buyer, I'm drawing the order. I give my name, my address. I state that I'm the drawer. All right. I pick the bank that approved me for finance. I put that bank down as the drawer E. That's the institution I'm drawing this payment on. I give their name and I give their address. And then I give the payee. That's the dealer. put the dealer's name, I put the dealer's address because this is who I want the bank to pay. Okay. I give the terms of this instrument that I'm making. The terms is usually the terms of the installment contract. I match them up, the exact same terms because they're matching principles. Okay. So I'm giving you game for free. Okay. Yeah, I know. People will charge you thousands for what I just said. Okay. Now, I match the terms so that the instruments are matching. All right. Once I do that, I give the due date. All right. I put the total amount of my instrument to match that instrument. So if this instrument was 50,000 on my instrument that I'm creating, I put 50,000 USD. Right. And then I give a certification. I, Isaiah Jakeem Bey, holder of this installment loan agreement, hereby acknowledge and accept all terms as the buyer. And as consideration for the value received from the dealer, I hereby tender and attach a payment order for processing payment. Wow. There it is. There it is. There it is. And it's a wrap, just like that. It's a wrap. I just made payment. I just made payment. I just paid off the car in full. See what I'm saying? See how easy that is? It's not hard. When you understand the players involved and you're able to draw up the draft for all the players involved, when you know what position you hold and you're able to take charge, why would the lender deny you the rights to the draft? Because the bank is the financer. He ain't gonna deny the draft. You think the bank gonna deny that draft once it come on that bank's desk when the bank already said you was approved? So if you draw an order on that same bank and to give it to the dealer, you don't think that that bank gonna accept that? Matter of fact, you don't think that the dealer would accept a draft drawn on the financer by you saying that you drawing it on that bank to pay him, and you are the one drawing the draft and attaching it to his instrument? You don't think he's gonna accept that? How many? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you believe that the bank won't accept the draft after they approved you for payment. Raise your hand if you think the dealer won't accept the draft when the dealer is the one asking you to give him the payment when he know that the bank has already approved the balance. All right. The thing is, you've been paying your debts off yourself. You've been waiting 30 days later and being charged when all you had to do was create a negotiable instrument and involve all the parties and make sure that the payment was made. It's really simple. It's not hard at all. You got the rights to draw a draft. If you've been approved for credit, you got the rights to draw it on the institution who's providing you the credit. Why come you can't? Why come you can't? Everybody on here should go out and get them a new car. Like, let me stop. But that is proper procedure, though. I just want to make sure that you understand that is the proper procedure. The proper procedure is for you to draw up a draft, right? And you already got all the parties. You got the lender, you know what I'm saying? You got the payee, and you got the debtor or the borrower who has to pay. You got all three parties right there. Why you can't create a negotiable instrument and pay? Come you can't when you got everything you need. But this. With that said, man, I'm gonna let y'all go, man. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, man, when I come on here and I drop a little bit of science, give you something to think about. Because I know, like, things that I say, things that I think, a lot of people don't think like me. They don't have the same concepts that I have. Matter of fact, they probably haven't studied like I have to understand things the way that I do. That's why I can come on here and say what I just said for free. You know what I'm saying? When I know you got most gurus that wish they understood what I just said because they'll be charging top dollar. Straight up, they'll be charging you top dollar just to show you how to create a draft to pay off your debt. You see what I'm saying? But I'm giving it to you for free. You know what I'm saying? I ain't charging you nothing. All I ask for you to just give me some likes, share my live out. Shit, I don't ask you for a whole lot, just to, show you some love because, we all have the same rights. You know what I'm saying? We all have the same blessings, and you start getting the blessings that you're entitled to on your account. Once you get one account, clear it up, and you start being able to reap the benefits from that account, you ain't worried about charging them because you're able to use yours. You know what I'm saying? What I want. I enjoy draft what I want. You know what I mean? So, hey, with that said, man, I'm gonna bring this one to a closure. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. It's always my pleasure to come on here and share information, give you something to think about. Get your atoms circulating, because I know a lot of y'all right now is on fire because you probably ain't never heard nobody explain how to purchase a car the way I just did. Nobody never really explained to you how to put all the pieces together, how to identify all the parties to a draft in order to make a payment. So now, just for me giving you just that little bit of information, you know how powerful that is? Do you know how powerful that little bit of information I just gave you? Because I'm giving you insight. I'm giving you a way to look into the transaction to see something other than what you've been taught. Because you've only been taught to see things a certain way, but I'm trying to get you to see it in a different way in which you can benefit from it. Because you do hold the power and you do have all the authority to act. You just don't know how. So I'm trying to give you scenarios to get you in the right position so you can know how to make these acts so that you can benefit in every transaction, because by law, you do have the rights to do everything that I'm saying. You just got to be able to stand in that truth. And with that said, man, I'm going to bring this one to a close. I'm out of here. Y'all have a blessed. Y'all have a wonderful day. I shall return with some more information as always, man. Like I said, thank you. If this is your first time tapping in with me, make sure you hit the follow button, the subscribe button, so you don't miss any information whenever Brother Isaiah go live. Anytime I go live, you can ask anybody on that's been following me. Every time I go live, I drop a nugget. You ain't gonna never get on the live with Brother Isaiah where I'm not dropping a nugget. I'm gonna always give you a nugget. I'm gonna give you something that you can cherish and you can keep and take with you everywhere you go. You know what I'm saying? I always learned this. There's no good in having a conversation if you can't grow in it. So every time you talk to me, I want to make sure that it's growth and development in everything that we do. Period. Salute to all my real